Hello everyone, welcome to your pre-year video guide for your class from Silverlight University of Investiture. I am Professor Williams, I am a Stoneward of the Third Ideal, and since the school year is rapidly approaching, I've decided to make a little video going over everything you'll need to know for my class on investiture and theoretical investiture. If you hear any sort of thundering noises or anything like that, do not mind it. It's not your house. I have a séance going on right now, showing me my homeland of Roshar. This class will be going over investiture from all parts of the Cosmere, from Roshar to Taldane, Sel, even Threnody. For those of you who are not attending this class in Silverlight, please note that we will be taking information from all sources, though we have not yet gotten information from Isles of the Emberdark yet. It has released, however I have not had the opportunity to read it yet. Until then, we'll be going over everything that we have, up to and including the latest reports from Roshar, from the books of Wind and Truth. We are going to go ahead and start off with the laws of investiture. There are 4 laws of investiture. The first one, I don't need to go over the first one. You went over it in high school. We all know about the first law. We all know its connection to Adonalsium. I don't need to go over it. If you're going to try to make me go over it, I'm going to have you just take a remedial class. So we're just going to go ahead and skip to the second law, Chris's second law. This law may sound familiar to those of you who are not as familiar with investiture, but are familiar with solid matter. And, of course, normal energy. Investiture cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change forms. If you are about to say something about anti-investiture, save it. We'll get to that later. This is the most fundamental law. It has been proven time and time again. So don't try to pretend that it's not a thing. I know about the research that Navani and Raboniel did. It doesn't prove this law false. The third law, I don't have enough space to write on this paper, unfortunately. However, I'll just go ahead and say it. Investiture, it flows like a river. Let's see how to describe it well. Let's say you have 2 balloons. Or not 2 balloons, just 1 balloon. You have 1 balloon. You fill this balloon up with air, and you pinch it tight. This balloon is your vessel. And when you let go of the bottom, all the air inside is pushed out. However, the more air that's in there, the stronger it's pushed out. Of course, this doesn't actually work with balloons. However, you get the mental picture. The larger concentration, I cannot talk today. The larger concentration of investiture in an object, the quicker it is pushed out. Think a water bottle. If this water bottle here, if it was full, and I held it like this, it being full, all the water would be gushing out until it became about level with the cap, at which case it would slow down until it is lower than the cap, in which case it would stop. There is no lower than the cap for, let's say, a human body. If you are holding a lot of investiture and you're not using it, it will passively leak out until you have none left whatsoever. However, for something like, say, a sphere from Roshar, especially a perfect gemstone, those would work much better. The fourth law we also don't really need to go over. It's really just for this pre-year video, we'll be going over just the second and third laws. Now, I'll go ahead and tear this off. I sure hope I don't have to do another take of this, because otherwise I'm going to be wasting a lot of paper. In class I'd just go with whatever happens. I don't see the reason why I can't do that with this video. Next topic. Realmatic interactions. One of the basic things you need to know about investiture is that it does not care what realm you're in. It does not care what realm anything's in. Investiture is in all realms. It's a primarily spiritual realm object. It's primarily in the spiritual realm. However, it does have both the physical realm and cognitive realm forms. As a student of Silverlight, you will no doubt be seeing the cognitive realm forms of investiture all the time. However, while in the physical realm, since you're already coming to a cognitive realm university, we can go over what it looks like in the cognitive realm when you actually get here. In the physical realm, it can exist in any of the basic three states of matter. Light on Roshar is a gas, or there is water, which many perpendicularities are made up of, especially the one in Cell. And solid, like all metals in the metallic art spectrum. When actually in physical form, all investiture becomes metal. You can see this in the god metals, you can see this in the standard metals. All investiture is metal. Remember that. Certain investitures, certain solid forms of investiture like atium, or malatium I suppose, do kind of mess with this, but it is still metallic in origin. Now, when you have a lot of investiture all in one place, this will pierce all three realms. This creates what is known as a perpendicularity. And a perpendicularity, investiture flows out, and you can get into the cognitive realm or the spiritual realm from there. However, it takes a lot of investiture in order to make this happen. If you were able to get your hands on one of the 16 shards, that could get you there. However, outside of that, you really just need to find a perpendicularity somewhere. Just a note, because this happened in one of my previous classes, don't try to become a perpendicularity. I don't want to show you the video of what happened to Maurice. Don't try it. One thing to note is that time dilation is standard whenever around any amount of investiture. However, even among perpendicularities, it is incredibly mild. You will barely notice it. A second maybe 0.5% longer than normal. Unless if you have a shard, you're not going to be experiencing time dilation at all. Well, you'll be experiencing it, but you won't be perceiving it at all. Let me just scroll down for my notes. And we're done with the realmatic interaction section. Let me go ahead and tear this off. Oh, that's a clean tear. Nice. Intent. This is where the information from the latest sources of Roshar is coming in. If you have yet to read the reports of Wind and Truth, this is where I'm going to go ahead and tell you to turn off the video, or skip ahead till after the intent section. I promise you, it's not going to be major if you do stay. It is just the name of something. But if you decide to say, don't complain that I spoiled something from this report. Intent. All investiture, no matter what, even before the shattering of Adonalcium, was tied to one of the 16 shards. You may ask how this was possible, considering the fact that the shards didn't yet exist. Well, the shards were part of Adonalcium. So, as being of 16 different intents, they were all able to tie into one of Adonalcium's intents. In no particular order, the intents are as follows. Ambition. You may recognize this shard as it is. You may recognize this name as it is the shard that was shattered near Threnody. Virtuosity. Once again, another shard that had unfortunately been splintered. Devotion. And its counterpart, Dominion. The two shards that were shattered in the cognitive realm of Cell. Preservation. And its counterpart, Ruin. Note that both of these are now Harmony. However, if Harmony counts as an intent now is still yet to be seen. More research will need to be done on that. Cultivation. Odium, and Honor. The three shards of the Rosharan system. Endowment. Autonomy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Still 5 more. Invention. Whimsy. If you want to have a laugh, by the way, look up Whimsy's invested arts. We won't be able to get into it anytime soon in this class, unfortunately. I don't even know if you'll be able to cover it under my tutelage. Professor Callahan will likely be going over it. Valor. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Mercy. And finally, Reason. All investiture is tied to one of these 16 intents. It does not matter where it's from. It does not matter if the shard itself is responsible for creating it. All investiture is tied to this. A shard may not even know that they are tied to a certain type of investiture. However, once they do know, they can start to influence it. The creation of an avatar is done usually through interfering with its investiture. Intent is very important, and we will be going over intent much more in a later section, as active use of investiture requires intent as well. However, right now we really don't have the time for that. I wish these post-it notes were larger. We have to tire another one down. I couldn't tear these things normally at all until it was for work. Fun. Our next section. Preservation. Not preservation. Presentation. Presentation. As it exists in all three realms, not presentation, sorry. Well, it says presentation now. So I guess we can skip over to the next section, also known as color. You might think color means nothing. You would be wrong. And I am so glad that you are watching this video now instead of writing a paper where you say that color means nothing. I swear if you write a paper that says color means nothing, I will fail you. Color has everything to do with investiture. It's part of the cognitive aspect of investiture due to the fact it exists in all three realms. Certain colors like red are linked to changes in investiture. If investiture suddenly turns red, it is corrupted. With Sjanat's enlightened spren. These spren are red instead of their normal color. The color, however, could one day change. It's not likely to happen. It would take several thousands of years, and we would all also need to forget that red means that investiture has been corrupted. If we suddenly just one day swapped to purple means corrupted, and there are some cultures that believe that purple means poison. So if we someday just swapped from red, meaning corruption, to purple could suddenly become a corrupted investiture. And we don't know if that would mean that the investiture would... if the investiture that is corrupted would change the color purple, or if red investiture would no longer be corrupted and anything purple would be. It'd be a very fascinating thing to see if any of us would have survived for thousands of years and, didn't also contribute to the perspective part of color. There is also the fact that certain, certain invested arts, such as awakening, they also drain color from the surrounding. And when an awakener works their magic, the surrounding environment turns gray. Incredibly strong awakening turns things stark white. And also, shard magic in general is also tied to color. I will be making notes on the sticky notes after I finish my little lecture here, because I got way too distracted just talking instead of actually going over the paper. But a shard's magic is tied to a color. And just because a fusion of shards exist does not mean that they will suddenly be connected to the two colors of the fusion of shards. For example, Ruin's color is black, while Preservation's color is white. Harmony is neither, and it's not gray either. So yeah, the color could be anything, really. I personally don't know the color of Harmony just yet. I think it might be gold, but that might also be another shard. I think gold is also associated with odium. So, our notes for this section. Color means a lot. Color is tied to cognition. Each shard is tied to a color. Let's see, is there anything else in that section? I should probably make a note about red investiture. Red means corruption. And that is all we'll be going over for the color section. I should note now that if you need that, well, this is a video, so if you need to copy down any of these notes, rewind the video to the last point in which the thing is written down, and copy it down there. If I'm rewatching the video and I see that the sticky notes are too small for the camera to see, then I will take closer pictures of each of these slides, so that way you can also copy them down from that. I'll also be adding a little slideshow piece just in case for people who have access to that. However, our color section is now done. Now, we can go over perception. Perception. Due to the fact that investiture resides in all three realms, the cognitive realm has a bit of a chokehold on it. Despite the fact that the cognitive realm really has not as much of a hold on it as the spiritual realm, but due to the fact that it is still a cognitive thing, people's perception of investiture can change it. It would take many thousands of years for this to happen. However, it would still be able to happen. Let's see. An example. Cognitive shadows, yes. Let's say this is, let's see. No, I can't do that. The survivorists would kill me for that. Greg. This is Greg. Greg is recently dead. However, he was so invested that instead of passing on to whatever happens after you die, he becomes a cognitive shadow. Let's see. Let's just go ahead and give him little eyes here and a little smile. Greg would not experience any changes at first. He would just be who he is. Just, as a cognitive shadow. However, if Greg was someone of major importance, like, let's say, I don't know, the leader of a religious cult-ish thing? Let's go with that thing that I totally just thought of myself, and didn't take from somewhere else. Let's say that. Over time, Greg could realize that some things about his personality have changed. This would, again, take a few thousand years for it to work. However, over time, Greg might notice that he's a little bit more noble than he used to be. Or maybe he's a little bit more vile than he used to be. It entirely depends on how people talk about him at this point and how people think about him. Because as a cognitive shadow, your entire essence is basically the cognitive realm. There is the spiritual realm as well, however, it's mainly the cognitive realm. So, as time goes on, Greg may not even realize it, but the person who was Greg is no longer. There's another example of it. This is another thing, actually, from the reports from the Wind and Truth. Large quantities of investiture can become self-aware. How do I write this down? Or how do I make a diagram of this? A diagram. Sorry. Yeah, let's just write it down. Or not, actually. I'll write it down after I'm done. So, during the final battle against Dalinar Kholin and Odium, Taravangian, he took up the Shard of Honor. But the Shard of Honor had been without a wielder for so long. Like after the like it was barely after the Recreants what's his name? After Tanavast died. It was so long after that the Shard of Honor had started to become its own entity. Like, it had thoughts and feelings. It was childlike, but it was still a thing. And it was even able to speak with Dalinar. So, given even more time, it's likely that the Shard of Honor would have grown up to be a full person. We don't actually know if the Shard of Honor is still sapient now that it is combined with... Now that Taravangian holds both it and Odium to become Retribution. However, it could still be the thing. I will be going over this in a later segment, not in this video, in a completely separate video. However, just know, cognitive beings are susceptible to perception changes. And investiture can become self-aware. There we go. We'll give you this amount of time to take your notes, and then we will continue. Give me just a moment to check my notes here. Ah, yes. Almost forgot about this. Anti-investiture. I said we would be getting to it. I'm not even going to do a slide on this. We know very little about anti-investiture right now. However, what we do know is that when investiture... I'll write a note about it. When investiture and anti-investiture meet, big explosion. Both the original investiture and the anti-investiture are annihilated. This does not mean they are destroyed. The investiture changes to a wide swath of energy and an explosion of light, heat, and pure energy. I'm not making any notes. We will be going over this much, much later when we actually know more about it. Now I will just let you look at this. Don't copy any notes for it. You don't need to know it. I'll still make a screen. I'll still take a picture of it if I need to, just for completion's sake. However, until then, let's continue. Give me just a moment. I suppose I could actually save these for another lesson. We've gone over the basic laws of investiture so far. I haven't gone over access or the forms of investiture in the cognitive or physical realm yet. For the most part anyway. I haven't gone over different types of investiture. Each of the different types of investiture on each planet will be its own separate segment. Not in this video. That will be a lesson for another day. So actually, with this brief primer before the school year starts, I'm going to leave you with that. Now, as a little bit of extra homework, I'll write this on the sticky note. Didn't have enough room. Pick one other world. This does not mean any world that is in the cluster of the Cosmere. If you pick Roshar, this does not count. If you pick Scadrial, does not count. If you pick Fodlan, that counts. If you pick, let's say, Unova, that counts. If you pick, trying to think of another example. Yes! If you pick the metaverse, that counts. I'll explain this one a little bit more after the video. I want you to take that world's magic system, and I want you to explain it as though it was a world in the cluster of the Cosmere. This is a preschool year test. This is only a participation grade. However, you do not want to start the year with a 0. It will be hell to climb back up. So please do the assignment. And I will read them out, not on video necessarily. However, I will read them and I will give you some sort of notes. We'll be going over the actual more specifics of investiture as the year progresses. I plan to do a video of one of these about once every month, going over different segments. Once we get over the general rules of investiture, we will start going into specific worlds. I'm unfortunately not able to show examples of any of them personally. My Peaks friend Bigelos has banned me from using surges in the classroom after last year's accident. Don't worry, no one died, thankfully. It took about 3 weeks to get them out of the beads, though. Whatever. It was a mistake, and I've learned from it. However, I will not be able to show you any physical examples. As helpful as that would be, you'll just have to do your own research on that one. I'll likely give some sort of... I'll likely give some sort of example whenever those happen. Likely in the slideshow, as a... what's the word? Likely in the slideshow as a complimentary piece. I hope that all of you have a wonderful time at the Silverlight University of Investiture, and I will see you in class. Please note that if you signed up for the 8 a.m. classes, get to the 8 a.m. classes. These videos are not meant to be a substitute for actual attendance. Thank you very much, and please have a good day. Life before death, strength before weakness, journey before pancakes. Goodbye.